You are teaching people how to treat you every single day, and most of you don't even realize it. Right now, as you sit there, someone in your life is learning exactly what they can get away with based on what you've been willing to accept. Every text message you send to someone who consistently ignores you is a lesson. Every time you make yourself available to someone who treats you as an option, you're conducting a masterclass in disrespect. The person who chases others is broadcasting a message so clear, so unmistakable, that the entire universe responds accordingly. That message says, I don't believe I'm worth genuine interest. I don't trust that anyone would choose me if they had real options. I'm willing to settle for scraps of attention because I don't believe I deserve the full meal. Who in your life right now is teaching you that your time, your attention, your presence has no real value? Raise your hand if there's someone you've been texting, calling, pursuing, who responds to you when it's convenient for them, when they need something, when they're bored. Keep that hand up if you've been telling yourself they're just busy, just going through something, just not ready for what you're offering. Your hand is still up because you recognize the pattern. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Now here's what I want you to understand. That person isn't the problem. You are. Not because you're broken or flawed or unworthy, but because you're operating from a place of such profound misunderstanding about how respect works, that you've turned yourself into someone who chases what runs away and ignores what comes freely. 3 years ago, a woman named Sarah finally understood this principle in a way that changed everything. She had been pursuing a man for 8 months. 8 months of carefully crafted text messages, of making herself available whenever he reached out, of accepting last-minute invitations while he declined her planned ones. She told herself she was being patient, understanding, giving him space to realize her value. The turning point came on a Tuesday evening when she found herself typing and deleting the same text message for 20 minutes, trying to find the perfect words that would make him respond. In that moment she stopped and asked herself one question. If my best friend was doing what I'm doing right now, what would I tell her? The answer was immediate and brutal. I'd tell her to stop embarrassing herself. She deleted the message. She deleted his number. She deleted the fantasy she'd been living in where persistence would eventually pay off. But more importantly, she deleted the belief that she needed to convince anyone of her worth. 6 months later, she met the man she married. But that's not the real story. The real story is what happened in those 6 months when she stopped chasing. She started attracting. Not because she learned some technique or strategy, but because she finally understood a fundamental law that governs all human relationships. This law is as reliable as gravity, as predictable as the sunrise, and as ignored as the warnings on cigarette packages. It states that what we believe about ourselves in the deepest parts of our consciousness will be reflected back to us in every relationship we attract. If you believe, somewhere in the depths of your mind, that you're not quite enough, that you need to work harder than others to earn love, that your natural self isn't particularly interesting or valuable, then the universe will send you people who confirm this belief. Not because the universe is cruel, but because the universe is exact. You see, every human being is like a radio station, broadcasting on a specific frequency 24 hours a day. The signal you send out isn't your words, your actions, or your intentions. It's your beliefs about yourself, transmitted through 1,000 tiny expressions, postures, choices, and energetic signatures that others pick up unconsciously. When you chase someone who shows little interest, you're broadcasting on the frequency of scarcity. The signal says, there aren't many options for someone like me. This person represents a rare opportunity that I can't afford to lose. I'd better hold on tight because I don't trust that anything this good will come along again. People who are comfortable with themselves, who have options, who understand their own value, don't listen to that frequency. It doesn't match their energy. But people who are also operating from scarcity, who enjoy being chased because it feeds their ego, who like having someone always available while they keep their options open, they tune right in. This is why the person you're chasing feels so perfect for you. You're a perfect energetic match, not because you're meant to be together, but because you're both broadcasting from the same wounded place. So let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. What are you teaching others about your value by your behavior? When you text someone who takes days to respond, what lesson are you providing about how quickly your communications deserve attention? When you accept last-minute invitations while your planned ones get cancelled, what are you teaching about how much advance notice your time requires? Every interaction is a class in session, and you are the teacher. The curriculum is your boundaries, your standards, your willingness to walk away from situations that don't serve you. Most people are unconscious teachers, providing lessons they never intended to give, wondering why their students keep failing the same tests. Are you seeking from others what you refuse to give yourself? This question will change your life if you let it. The person who can't enjoy their own company will always be desperate for others to fill the void. The person who doesn't celebrate their own accomplishments will always need external validation to feel worthy. The person who doesn't protect their own time will always attract people who waste it. How many times will you knock on a door that never opens before you realize there are other doors? I've watched people spend years knocking on the same door, creating elaborate explanations for why it remains closed. They'll tell you the person behind the door is scared, overwhelmed, dealing with past trauma, not ready for something real. They'll analyze every small gesture, every brief response, looking for signs that their persistence is about to pay off. But here's what they never want to face. Some doors are closed because there's nothing behind them for you. Some people don't respond because they're not interested. Some relationships don't develop because they're not meant to. And your willingness to accept this reality is the measure of your emotional maturity. Self-respect isn't something you develop in a weekend seminar or learn from a book. It's built through daily choices, accumulated like interest in a bank account. Every time you choose to honor your own standards instead of compromising them for someone else's attention, you make a deposit. Every time you walk away from a situation that diminishes you, you invest in your own future. The person with genuine self-respect doesn't need to announce it, defend it, or prove it. It shows up in how they move through the world, what they accept, what they refuse, how they respond to both kindness and disrespect. They understand that external validation is like borrowed clothes. It might look good temporarily, but it never really fits. Think about the people in your life who you naturally respect and want to be around. They're not the ones who chase you, overwhelm you with attention, or make themselves constantly available. They're the ones who have their own lives, their own standards, their own sense of direction. They show interest without desperation, care without clinging, availability without total accessibility. The difference between healthy desire for connection and desperate need for attention is simple. Healthy desire can walk away. It can say, "I'm interested, but I'm not desperate. I'd like to build something with you, but I don't need you to complete me. You're welcome in my life, but I won't diminish myself to keep you here." This isn't about playing games or being cold or unavailable. It's about understanding that real connection happens between two whole people who choose each other, not between two halves trying to become complete. When you take full responsibility for your relationship patterns, something magical happens. You stop being a victim of other people's choices and become the creator of your own experiences. You stop asking why people treat you a certain way and start asking what you're doing to attract that treatment. The victim asks, "Why doesn't he text me back?" The creator asks, "What am I believing about myself that attracts people who don't value my communication?" The victim asks, "Why does she only want to see me when it's convenient for her?" The creator asks, "What standards am I maintaining that would prevent this situation from continuing?" This shift from victim to creator is the foundation of all personal power. When you understand that you're getting exactly what you're unconsciously asking for, you can begin to ask for something different. Your current relationship patterns are the result of thousands of small choices you've made over years. The choice to text someone who doesn't respond promptly. The choice to accept plans that get canceled. The choice to be understanding when someone shows you through their actions that you're not a priority. These choices have taught others exactly how to treat you, but here's the truth that will set you free. If your choices created your current situation, your choices can create a different one. You have trained people to treat you exactly as they do. This means you have the power to retrain them, or to find people who already know how to treat someone with your new standards. Starting today, every interaction becomes an opportunity to teach a different lesson. Every boundary you maintain is a statement about your value. Every time you choose your own dignity over someone else's convenience, you're broadcasting on a new frequency. The people who are meant for you are listening for that frequency. They're waiting for someone who knows their own worth, who doesn't need to be convinced of their value, who can build something real instead of chasing something imaginary. But first you have to stop teaching the wrong lessons. You have to stop giving graduate-level courses in how to take you for granted. You have to become conscious of the curriculum you've been providing and decide whether it matches the outcomes you want to create. The mirror never lies. What you see in your relationships is always a reflection of what you believe about yourself. When you change what you believe, what you see changes automatically. This isn't positive thinking or wishful hoping. This is the mechanical working of a universe that always gives you exactly what you're truly asking for, whether you realize you're asking for it or not. Now that you understand the mirror principle, you need to understand the laws that govern how that mirror works in relationships. Human connection operates on principles as reliable as physics, as predictable as mathematics, and as ignored as speed limits on an empty highway. The first law is reciprocity, and it's being violated every time you chase someone who shows minimal interest. Healthy relationships exist in a state of natural balance. When one person gives, the other gives back. When one person reaches out, the other responds in kind. When one person makes time, the other makes time. This isn't about keeping score or creating some transactional relationship where every gesture must be immediately returned. It's about recognizing that genuine connection requires mutual interest, mutual effort, and mutual investment. When this balance is absent, you don't have a relationship. You have a situation where one person is auditioning for a role the other person has no intention of casting. Show me someone who consistently pursues people who don't pursue them back, and I'll show you someone who believes they need to earn what should be freely given. You cannot force someone to value you through persistence. You cannot convince someone to choose you through availability. You cannot create reciprocity through one-sided effort. When you keep texting someone who responds hours or days later with minimal effort, you're trying to make water flow uphill. When you continue making plans with someone who regularly cancels or shows up late, you're attempting to harvest a field you never planted. When you give your best energy to someone who gives you their leftover attention, you're violating a law as fundamental as gravity. Think of a farmer who plants seeds in spring and expects a harvest by summer. If he planted corn, he expects corn to grow. He doesn't plant corn and then spend months trying to convince it to become wheat. He doesn't water weeds hoping they'll transform into vegetables. He doesn't invest his time and energy in soil that refuses to produce. Yet this is exactly what you do when you chase someone who shows little interest. You're trying to convince corn to become wheat. You're watering weeds and wondering why you're not getting vegetables. You're investing in soil that's clearly not fertile for what you're trying to grow. The seasons of human connection work exactly like the seasons in nature. There's a time for planting, a time for growing, a time for harvesting, and a time for rest. When you try to force connection in the wrong season, you destroy the natural process that allows relationships to develop organically. Some people are in winter when you meet them. They're not available for new growth. They're dormant, dealing with their own issues, focused inward, not ready to invest energy in building something new. When you try to force spring to happen in their winter, you exhaust yourself and accomplish nothing. Others are in spring, ready for new beginnings, open to possibilities, available for planting seeds of connection. These are the people who respond to your interest with interest, who match your energy, who contribute to the growth process. But you miss them because you're so busy trying to force flowers to bloom in frozen ground. The tragedy is that many people spend years trying to have a harvest with someone who's in perpetual winter, while people in their own spring season remain unnoticed. You walk past fertile soil because you're obsessed with trying to farm in the desert. Every interaction between human beings involves an exchange of energy. When you're around someone who lifts your spirits, makes you feel more confident, brings out your best qualities, you've just experienced a positive energy exchange. When you leave someone's presence feeling drained, confused, less confident, or diminished, you've experienced a negative energy exchange. The person you're chasing right now, how do you feel after your interactions with them? Not how you hope to feel, not how you felt in the beginning, not how you imagine you'll feel if things change. How do you actually feel right now, after your recent interactions? If you're honest, you probably feel some combination of anxious, uncertain, not quite good enough, and constantly wondering where you stand. This is what happens when you're giving your energy to someone who's not giving energy back. You're creating a deficit in your own energy account while making deposits in theirs. People with strong boundaries and healthy self-respect have a natural magnetism because they conserve their energy for mutually beneficial exchanges. They don't drain themselves trying to fill other people's emotional tanks. They don't accept crumbs of attention from people who should be offering full meals of genuine interest. Meanwhile, people who chase create the opposite effect. Their energy becomes scattered, desperate, and repelling. They operate from a state of constant deficit, always needing more validation, more response, more proof that they matter. This neediness creates a gravitational pull in the wrong direction, pushing away the very thing they're trying to attract. Watch what happens when someone stops chasing and starts conserving their energy for people who appreciate it. Suddenly, they become more attractive to everyone around them, not because they're playing games, but because they're no longer broadcasting desperation. Here's something that will change how you see rejection forever. Every closed door is protecting you from something that wasn't meant for you, and redirecting you towards something that is. The person who ignores your text messages is doing you a favor by showing you clearly that they're not your person. The one who cancels plans repeatedly is saving you from wasting months or years on someone who doesn't prioritize you. But most people don't see it this way. They see a closed door and assume it means they're not worthy of having any door open. They see one person's disinterest and conclude that they're generally uninteresting. They take one rejection as evidence that they should lower their standards and accept whatever attention they can get. The truth is exactly the opposite. One person's disinterest is simply data, information that helps you avoid investing in the wrong direction. When someone shows you through their actions that you're not a priority, they're giving you valuable intelligence that allows you to redirect your energy towards someone who will make you a priority. Maria spent 2 years trying to get her supervisor to notice her contributions at work. She stayed late, volunteered for extra projects, and consistently went above and beyond, hoping he would recognize her value and promote her. Instead, he took credit for her ideas and continued to overlook her for advancement opportunities. The breakthrough came when she stopped trying to get his attention and started building relationships with leaders in other departments. Within 6 months, she received 2 job offers from companies that had noticed her work. The supervisor who had ignored her for 2 years suddenly tried to counter-offer when she gave her notice. But by then, she understood the principle. The right opportunities don't require you to convince anyone of your worth. They recognize it immediately and respond accordingly. This same principle applies to personal relationships. The right person doesn't need to be convinced to text you back, doesn't need to be persuaded to make time for you, doesn't need to be talked into treating you with respect. They do these things naturally because they recognize your value and want to build something with you. Yet most people engage in behaviors that actively destroy their chances with the right people while desperately pursuing the wrong ones. They overtext, which signals insecurity. They make themselves constantly available, which eliminates mystery and challenge. They ignore their own boundaries to accommodate someone else's comfort, which broadcasts low self-worth. These behaviors come from a fundamental misunderstanding about how attraction works. You cannot create attraction through pursuit. You cannot build respect through availability. You cannot inspire someone to choose you by eliminating their need to effort to keep you. The person who responds to your text immediately every time has no space in their life, no boundaries around their time, and probably no other options demanding their attention. The person who cancels their own plans to accommodate your last-minute invitation has no commitments to themselves or anyone else. The person who drops everything to be with you whenever you call has nothing meaningful to drop. Is this really the person you want? Someone with no life of their own, no standards, no other interests or relationships? Or do you want someone who has built something meaningful, who has choices, who chooses you from a place of genuine preference rather than desperate availability? The scarcity mindset says, this person is rare and special. I need to hold on tight because I might not find anyone else like them. The abundance mindset says, there are many people in this world who could be a good match for me. If this person doesn't recognize my value, someone else will. Scarcity thinking makes you tolerate poor treatment because you believe your options are limited. Abundance thinking allows you to maintain standards because you trust that quality people exist and that you deserve to connect with them. The person operating from scarcity will accept being someone's backup plan, their convenient option, their ego boost when they need validation. They'll convince themselves that half-hearted attention is better than no attention, that inconsistent communication is better than silence, that being chosen sometimes is better than not being chosen at all. The person operating from abundance understands that being someone's option means you're not their priority. They know that inconsistent treatment reflects inconsistent interest. They recognize that accepting scraps trains people to only offer scraps. Which mindset have you been operating from? When someone takes days to respond to your messages, do you tell yourself they're just busy? Or do you recognize that people make time for what they prioritize? When someone only wants to see you on their terms, do you feel grateful for whatever attention you get? Or do you notice that they're showing you exactly how little they value your preferences? The shift from scarcity to abundance isn't about pretending you have more options than you do. It's about understanding that your worth isn't determined by any one person's interest in you. It's about recognizing that the right connections enhance your life rather than requiring you to diminish yourself to maintain them. Quality people are drawn to others who understand their own value. They want to build relationships with people who have standards, boundaries, and enough self-respect to walk away from situations that don't serve them. They're looking for equals, not students in desperate need of their validation. When you stop chasing people who show little interest, you become available for people who show genuine interest. When you stop accepting poor treatment, you create space for good treatment. When you stop settling for crumbs, you become ready for the full meal. But this requires you to face a truth that many people resist. Some relationships in your life right now need to end. Some people you've been pursuing need to be released. Some patterns you've been maintaining need to be broken. The question isn't whether you have the courage to start something new. The question is whether you have the courage to stop something that's preventing you from receiving what you actually deserve. Every minute you spend chasing someone who doesn't value you is a minute you're not available for someone who will. What's the one thing that instantly changes how people treat you even before you speak? It's not charm. It's not looks. It's the quiet authority of someone who respects themselves and lives like it. People sense it before they even understand why. You walk into a room, and the energy shifts, not because you're loud, not because you're trying, but because you've built yourself with small, deliberate actions every single day. That kind of presence doesn't just happen. It's forged in the moments when no one's watching. When you choose to keep promises to yourself, when you choose standards over shortcuts, when you choose solitude over shallow approval. Those are the quiet wins that no one claps for, but they change everything. And it starts from the second you open your eyes. The first hour after waking is your foundation, not because of some magical theory, but because it tells your mind what matters. If your first move is reaching for noise, distraction, or something to numb you, your brain learns to chase chaos. But if your first move is discipline, simple, grounded, intentional, your brain aligns with strength. Start small. Make your bed like it's a ritual. Not just to tidy up, but to remind yourself that your space reflects your self-respect. Drink water before anything else. Move your body, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Stretch, breathe, stand tall. You're not waking up to survive the day. You're waking up to lead it. And leadership starts with silence. Before words, before plans. Take a moment to listen. not to the outside world, but to yourself. What are you tolerating that's slowly draining your energy? What truth are you avoiding that keeps you stuck in patterns that don't reflect who you really are? That stillness, before the noise of the world enters, is where clarity lives. You don't need a perfect morning routine. You need an honest one. One that aligns with your values, not your mood. Then comes the mirror. You've looked into it thousands of times, but how often do you look with intent? That face holds your story, your doubt, your fire. Speak to it like it matters, because it does. People spend their lives waiting for someone else to validate them, not realizing the most powerful they hear is their own. Speak to yourself with respect, and your brain will start to believe it. And when you believe it, others follow. Every conversation you have during the day is a reflection of the one you've already had with yourself. If you carry unresolved insecurity, it leaks into your tone. If you've betrayed your own standards, it shows in your eyes. But if you've honored your word, even in the smallest things, people feel it. That's why discipline isn't just about productivity. It's about congruence. It's about being aligned with what you say you are. And that congruence builds magnetism. People don't trust those who act one way in private and another in public. They may follow them. They may even envy them, but they don't trust them. True trust is built by consistency, especially when no one is watching. When you hold boundaries without needing to explain them. When you say no without guilt. When you listen more than you speak, not because you're passive, but because you're grounded. That's what real confidence looks like. It's not the loudest person in the room. It's the one whose presence doesn't need volume to be felt. And presence is built in the moments you say no to what insults your values. No to gossip, no to drama, no to cheap validation. But even more than that, presence is built when you say yes to discomfort. Yes to hard conversations. Yes to silence, when silence is honest. Think about the last time you felt genuinely connected to someone. It probably wasn't during small talk. It wasn't when you were trying to impress. It was when you were real, when you were seen, not for your performance, but for your presence. That kind of connection is rare, because it requires you to be known, and being known is risky. It means showing your standards, your limits, your values, even when it's inconvenient, especially then. So here's the question. What would your day look like if everything you did was a vote for the kind of person you say you want to become? Would you still pick up the phone out of boredom? Would you still say yes when your gut is screaming no? Would you still keep the peace at the cost of your own self-respect? Most people don't need more time. They need fewer compromises. They need to stop pretending that breaking their own boundaries is somehow noble. It's not. It's self-erasure. And the world doesn't benefit from your silence. It benefits from your clarity, from your groundedness, from your presence. And presence isn't built in dramatic moments. It's built in repetition. How you stand, how you speak, how you walk into a room without shrinking. It's built in your posture, your tone, your energy. And none of that is accidental. It's a reflection of the internal agreement you've made with yourself, that you are worthy of your own respect, that you don't need to beg for attention when you carry purpose. Most people think discipline is about restriction. It's not. It's about freedom. The freedom to walk away from what doesn't honor you. The freedom to speak clearly, without apology. The freedom to show up fully, without over-explaining. That kind of freedom comes from structure, from saying, this is who I am, and this is how I move. Not to impress you, but because I've already decided. That decision, when practiced daily, becomes your peace. And peace is powerful, because it's rare. People feel it when you enter the room. They can't always explain it, but they trust it, because you don't need to perform. You're not chasing. You're not proving. You're just standing in what you already know to be true. That's magnetic. That's respect. That's connection. Let me know when you're ready for the continuation, and I'll expand the next part in the same natural tone, smoothly connecting it to where we left off.